Welcome to another lesson on the novel Dear Mr. Kilmer, and we are going to discuss the SPM Trial Exam from the year 2020. Before we begin our discussion, let's look at the suggestions for candidates. These suggestions are taken from the analysis of the previous year's answers. So here for novel, the suggestions given for candidates are number 1 or A, learn the details of the main or significant events in the novel so as to provide accurate and sufficient textual support. And B, be familiar with the plot, characters and events of the story. And C, do not reproduce memorized answers. So this is the SPM Trial Exam and it is in paper 2. The code is 1119/2 and we are looking at the paper from MRSM. So let's look at the question. The following are the novels studied in the literature component in English language. So Dear Mr. Kilmer, Captain Nobody and Sing to the Dawn. Choose any one of the novels above and answer the question below. Anything is possible if you believe in yourself. How is this shown in the novel you have read? Support your answer with close reference to the text. So remember, marks for content will be 10 and for language 5. Let's look at the model answer. So anything is possible if you believe in yourself. Let's look at the first one. So what do you believe in? Okay, in the story, it is about Richard. Is it about becoming a poet? Is it about being a good friend? Or is it about being a good son? For the question, we are going to choose anything is possible. So it is in becoming a poet. So we have evidence 1. Richard Knight wrote a letter to Mr. Kilmer. And evidence 2, Richard read his poem in class. And lastly, evidence 3, Richard continued corresponding with Mr. Kilmer. Reminders. Remember, when you write your answer, use past tense to write the events in the novel. So these are normally the evidence. And then read the questions a few times to understand the task. And then you need to determine whether the question is only for a character or more. Paragraph 1. So we are doing the introduction. You can write, the novel that I read was Dear Mr. Kilmer by Anne Schraff. The novel is about a farm boy, Richard Knight, who lived in Turtle Lake, Iowa. He was 15 years old and had an elder sister Angie and brother Gus. The novel the story evolved around Richard, who loved to write poetry, and his relationship with his family, Hannah Schirmer, his classmates, and Mr. Joyce Kilmer, a famous poet who joined the army during the World War II. Let's look at paragraph 2. We are writing evidence 1. So the answer will be Richard wrote to Mr. Kilmer. The saying anything is possible if you believe in yourself is portrayed by Richard Knight. He believed that he had found his hero when Mrs. Hanson began her English class by reading a poem titled Trees that was written by Mr. Joyce Kilmer. One of the class bullies, Abner, tried insulting Mr. Kilmer, but Mrs. Hanson was quick to read out the article from the New York Times that Mr. Kilmer was joining the army. Richard was inspired, so he quickly jotted down the address of the editor's office of the New York Times. After Richard got home, he read the poetry book and decided to write a letter to Mr. Kilmer. In the letter, he expressed his admiration and shared about his own poetry writing. Mr. Kilmer replied and told Richard to not be afraid to share his poems with others. At dinner, Richard told his family about the letter. His family didn't react enthusiastically. At school, Richard went to see Mrs. Hanson to show her the letter and some of his poems. Together, they picked a poem to send to Mr. Kilmer. For paragraph 3, we are writing evidence 2. It is about Richard reading his poem in class. Let's look at the example. Richard also began to believe in himself and showed more confidence when he read his poem in front of others. Mrs. Hanson announced that Richard was going to read the letters he received from Mr. Kilmer. Although some of the boys started insulting Richard, Richard read the letter out loud and read out the poem he had just written in honor of the soldiers going to war. Some students began to show respect to Richard. They expressed their support for the poem as they had family members in the army too. Moving on, now we are doing paragraph 4. So remember that you are writing evidence 3. It is related to Richard, who corresponded with Mr. Kilmer. After that, Richard wrote a reply to Mr. Kilmer. He received a letter back from Mr. Kilmer. He was very happy that Mr. Kilmer had complimented Hannah. Richard and Mr. Kilmer exchanged letters throughout the summer. Richard always attached a poem with each letter he sent. Mr. Kilmer sent a letter saying that he had arrived in France and was getting ready to join the battle. They exchanged more letters, and Mr. Kilmer would offer Richard some suggestions for his poems. In his last letter, Mr. Kilmer said that Richard would be the next generation of poets. Richard was touched by this letter and wrote back wanting to know how poets and poetry could make the world a better place. After knowing about Mr. Kilmer's death, Richard composed a poem in memory of Sergeant Joyce Kilmer. The Shermans encouraged him to publish his poem in the Turtle Lake Weekly, a local community newspaper. Dear pupils, now the last paragraph, paragraph 5. So we are writing the conclusion. Anything is possible if you believe in yourself is clearly shown in the events mentioned above, as Richard Knight was inspired and hopeful that his poetry could be good as Mr. Kilmer's. He wrote to Mr. Kilmer and gained confidence to share his poems with others, and in the end, Richard started contributing his poems to the local newspaper. Richard had faith in his abilities and always strived for his best. It's essential in order to better our lives and reach our dreams, to develop a strong positive belief in ourselves and our abilities. Dear pupils, thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you'll be able to get some ideas in answering the novel questions. So do subscribe to my channel, and then remember, study hard for your coming SPM examination. I'm Madam Gan, signing off. Bye bye.